Hello, HTM community. This is Matt Taylor, and thanks for watching this HTM conversation with David Ray. David Ray is lead programmer of HTM Java and a big part of our community, so I just want to say thanks to David Ray for joining this conversation. We are live on Google Plus and YouTube right now. If you want to join in the conversation, you can do so on the Google Plus page. Hopefully that's how you got here. Hi, David. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Matt? Thanks for having me.
Sure. Well, this is sort of an interview format, so I have some questions I want to talk to David Ray about in an effort just to allow the community to get to know him better. And then we've got a whole hour if we want to chat. I don't know if we'll go that long, but I blocked off that much. So questions and get to know David Ray a little bit better. So just if you don't know, David Ray is in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
United States. And how long have you lived in Chicago?
All my life, basically. So, I mean, I was born in Washington, D.C., but I'm Chicago bred, at least, not born and bred.
And David currently works for Cortical.io, which is a partner of Numenta. But before that, you were a software engineer in the Chicago area. Can you tell us a little bit about your work experience?
Well, mostly it had to do with the financial arena. Most of my work experience has been with financial firms, trading firms, no brokerage houses or anything. Then with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and I actually got into programming. I actually got into the field with a company called Track Data, which basically had it was a trading platform that basically networked trading consoles and basically had distributed consoles all over the world. And they had system hubs located in different cities, being like Los Angeles, London, I think they had one in Tokyo, and Chicago, New York. And I was kind of the overseer of those systems. And since I was freshly out of school, I oversaw those systems at about 12 midnight. And my shift went to 8 in the morning, so it was kind of off shift, and so that was kind of my first experience in the IT field.
That sounds awful, and you're still here. So it looks like we have a couple of members joined. Thanks for joining, guys. We're just talking about David Ray's work experience and delving into things about him. If you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and interject. But I had a few things I wanted to ask, but feel free to jump in. So David, I like to ask people what their first programming experiences were, because that in the programming world, most of us have some relation to the programming world. Everyone seems to have an interesting story about what got them into computer programming.
Well, I guess I kind of have an interesting story. That I started out in electronics engineering. That was kind of my concentration in school, and I really wasn't very happy with it. And I had a class in assembly language for the 8080 microprocessors class. So my first real introduction to programming was with assembly language and microprocessing, and we got a new microprocessor, the 68000. It's a Motorola processor, and one we hadn't really looked at, and so the teacher gave us an assignment. It was a 2-week assignment in which I can't remember what the exact job was, but we were supposed to use the chip to get something or other done. And the day we came in to hand in our assignments, everybody went to the desk as he called our names, and people had 3 and 4 pages of programming, and I came up to the desk and I had one sheet of paper with half of the sheet filled out, and the whole program was on that. And the teacher looked at me and smiled, and I kind of looked at him, and there was something communicated in that. And I just, at that moment, I felt like I could probably have, you know, like that, I had kind of found my career in a way. And I was dissatisfied with engineering because I didn't want to be in some assembly line making a smoke detector that works 20,000 leagues under the sea or out in outer space or something like that. I wanted to create things, and software gives you the ability to do that. So that was kind of
Yeah,
my introduction.
very cool. So you found your superpower in that moment. It sounds like.
It was kind of weird. It was kind of weird, but at least I found something that I was, really enthusiastic about, and it looked, and it's kind of nice when it looks as if you might be good at that thing too. So, yeah.
So maybe you could talk about a couple of people who have inspired you to be a better human being.
Um, I mean, other than yourself. And
Yeah.
I mean that honestly too. I mean, it's been very interesting. Matt and I kind of, when I first met Matt, he asked me why I wanted to basically
Give away your code
give him
in the midterm.
give away my code. I mean, it was kind of an off thing to do, I suppose. I don't know, not really, but and basically in that, we kind of discussed our goals as professionals in our field, and kind of what we're up to as human beings, and kind of what we see as Numenta's future and the importance of the technology and everything. So I kind of felt an instant connection with Matt in those first conversations. But um, as a human being, I guess I could say my father was a big influence on me, and My grandfather is really interesting. My grandfather was a geneticist and a zoologist, and this was in the 40s and 50s, back when um, persons of color um, didn't really enjoy some of the advantages of of some other people. And he was a geneticist, and he worked with Watson and Crick. And when he died, I saw a picture of him where Watson and Crick were shown in this photograph, and his back was turned, and he was in the lab at the time, and he was centered in the photograph, but in back of them, and his back was turned, and that was about the extent of the recognition. He used to tell me stories about, I can't remember whether it was Dr. Watson or Crick. Um, One of them was just really weird. He used to act like a monkey or something and sit in a chair and all this kind of weird stuff. And he used to tell me these stories. But anyway, um, he was just an amazing, amazing person. He got me interested in science, and he basically had me make a pact with him as a little boy. He said, whatever you do, I don't care what it is, as long as it's in science. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And he used to tell me, I don't know, I would go to his lab. He would keep Drosophila flies in the refrigerator, because, those flies have really short lifespans and short gestation periods. And so, they're heavily used for like genetics research. At least they were in the 50s and 60s. And I would ask my grandmother, how can you stand that, Pop has all these flies in the refrigerator? And and she was like, well, that's his work, I just kind of tolerate it. But he's the guy who got me interested in technical stuff, basically. So
That's very cool
pretty
to
interesting.
have a father figure that gets you so interested in STEM fields from an early age, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Uh, I have
yeah.
a couple other random questions, but like I said, if Aaron or Rob want to pipe in, please do. Um, David Ray, these are just kind of sort of ice-breaking, questions, but I like to get to know you better. So describe to me one of your favorite places in the world.
Uh, hmm.
Is it that chair you're in right now?
I would say that would have to be the most recent place that's one of my favorites, yes. Um, I think my favorite place is more of a mental place, and that is whenever I have the experience that I'm connecting, with the outside world and with people in general, and I get that feeling um, like people are really good underneath, and you have that feeling that you those better qualities that you suspect in other human beings are truly there, and um, it's just a feeling of connectivity, and I the world doesn't really support that as much as it does getting by in the world, and um, and really not making waves. It supports whatever behavior is not necessary to is necessary to not make waves. Um, and so in those moments where you see people for who they are, and you can connect with them, that's about my favorite place, I think.
It sounds like you're talking about people going the extra mile to help other people.
Definitely, definitely, and a lot of oddly, well, not odd so much oddly, but here in this community, this is my first experience with open source, and really being involved in a community like this one. And I have to say that I've met some really great people and some really supportive people, and people who really give a lot of themselves to support a technology that is eventually, and it has possibility for impact beyond the technical industry. It's going to have an impact on society, and human beings, and how we think of ourselves, and what's going to be possible for us. So um, and people tend to have a sense of that when they enter our community, and that to me is really exciting. Just to detect that sense. It doesn't even have to be spoken, but people get the importance immediately, and I think that's a unique aspect to our community. And yeah,
People are very passionate, and in a lot of cases, they come to the community exactly because they feel that way and they want to try and progress, make the progress happen. I know what
yeah,
you're talking about.
yeah,
On
totally.
that note, another one of my questions was, what kind of world do you think our grandchildren are going to grow up in? It's a hard question, I know. Predict the
Yeah.
future.
Well, if AI progresses as it has been, and a lot of our expectations become a reality, I think that what's going to happen to me, and what I really am working toward, and what I really want to see happen, is that right now the world operates on the exchange of physical items, and the storage of work, and the power associated with um, storing your work in terms of money in the account, or assets gained, or things like that. And in order to make the system work, some things have to be more valuable than the others. And what I'm talking about mostly is the notion of scarcity right now. You know, we have to conserve our energy on the planet. We have to conserve um, our effort because we can only dedicate the effort to, certain goals. We don't have more people and effort potential than we do things that require them right now. Um, and so what I see happening is that I think that technology is going to give us a space where we can have um, where we can manipulate, and I think I've said this before on mailing lists and stuff, that we could manipulate the atoms and molecules and create things kind of like a Star Trek replicator. We can create things, and it'll require the knowledge to do that and some kind of energy source that is much more plentiful than what we have now. Like I don't know, like cold fusion or something like that. But anyway, once we're able to do that, once we're able to create anything we need, then there'll be no reason to hoard things, to collect things for a rainy day because they'll be readily available. And at that point, um, as a matter of fact, there's a guy on a meetup that's going to happen in Irvine, California tomorrow. He's talking about the two singularities, one of them being technological and the other one being economic. And I wrote something on the mailing list about that this morning, and it was just amazing to have him put it that way because it kind of encapsulated, what whatever my notions were about it. But the economic singularity is that one where technology affords us the ability to basically not have to worry about needing things like energy and food supplies and whatever mechanisms that distribution of goods is going to require. None of that will be necessary. We'll basically, for all intents and purposes, get rid of scarcity. So I think the future for our children, our grandchildren, is going to be vastly different than anything any other human being has ever experienced. For one thing, we're going to evolve out of our, adolescence as a species, and we're going to have the ability to basically spend our time improving ourselves and those around us and our species in general and our predicament as a human being on a planet that could be hit by an asteroid at any given second. We are precarious in our future right now, and I think we can protect that. And technology is going to give us the opportunity to rise above a lot of the things that right now we're bound by. And I think our children are going to live in a world where hopefully if our work pans out, that we won't have health issues and distribution of goods issues and a lot of the things that we conserve and make scarce in order to give them value to keep our system going artificially. So I think any generation that comes up, the next two generations are going to be, it's going to be like a bell, like a curve, exponentially. It's the difference between their experience and our experience will be astronomical compared to the difference between our experience and our grandfather's experience.
So it's probably a good idea to take a cue from your father and teach our own children to study science so that they can help the problems that our generation and our parents' generation has created for our planet.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
I'm always optimistic about the future as long as we don't destroy ourselves everywhere we can find.
you know, Shakespeare said that tomorrow creeps at this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. Life is but whatever. So I can't remember the rest of the quote, but um, pale shadow that struts and frets its hour upon the stage, and then it's heard no more. It's a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. It's kind of like that, where we have ability to turn the key and wipe out everybody, but nobody actually quite does it. There's no action toward that end. We just have this enormous potential for destruction, but yet it creeps on at this petty pace from day to day. I just think I really don't think the likelihood is that great that we'll actually do that. It's more likely that, we just wake up and today is another extension of yesterday in that sense.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
All right, so I only have one more personality probing question for you, and that is, if you were completely financially independent, you didn't have to worry about bills or anything, what would you be doing with your life right now?
You're looking at it. I think I think that if you asked me that question at different stages, I would have had different answers. Though I mean, the first thing I wanted to do, and what I had been planning through, and the reason I went to school was I had construction plans for a sailboat. I read about a couple that built their own sailboat and traveled the world, and it's something that after I read just totally impacted me, and I wanted to kind of do because I like the idea of self-sufficiency, creating your own energy, and having the world be your backyard. So I contacted the naval architect who designed their sailboat, and as his last project before he lost his eyesight, he's dead now, but he sent me these construction plans for a Bristol Channel pilot cutter, and I had these plans, and that was my goal, and then I had my son, and things changed, and wonderfully so. But I went back to school. I was a musician straight out of high school, and I went back to school and went into engineering and made new goals. And so now now what I would do is exactly what I'm doing. But if you had asked me that, you know, however many years ago, um, I might have had a different answer.
Building a
But
sailboat.
yes, because what I wanted to do was travel the world, build a sailboat, live on it, and deliver medicine, make a run. There was a medicine run that goes from like France to Western Africa, and I was planning to and I got contact with some of these people and wanted to volunteer and make illegal runs of medicine to Western Africa. Um,
You're an outlaw humanitarian.
I shouldn't even be telling people that this exists, but yeah. I don't
Well,
know
just
if it
saying
still
you
does.
at some point in your past you had intent to be a criminal doesn't mean that you're liable for any of that.
Right, right, right.
Okay,
But
that's
that's an
fascinating.
enormous opportunity.
What did you play? You said you're a musician. You know, there's a lot of good engineers who started off as musicians. I think there's a great overlap there because the technicality of being a musician carries over very well to lots of
Isn't it
different
weird?
forms of engineering.
There's definitely an affinity that musicians have for programming and some of these technical fields. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I started out. I play a little alto saxophone, a little piano, and guitar, and bass guitar. And I Matter of fact, my band used to be managed by one of the brothers of Earth, Wind, and Fire. We used to write our own music, and it was a big '80s thing, when a lot of musical expression was, to me, that was the ultimate at that time. Um, but leg warmers aside, I think it was a great, it was a great time. for
Yeah.
music. You know, we did a lot of new stuff in that time. Um, but yeah, Monty White, I remember him
He was the
going
guy,
to.
the Earth, Wind, and Fire guy.
Yeah, his Maurice White is the main other that kind of was the leader of the band, you know, of Earth, Wind, and Fire. But and Monty wasn't in the band. He was a younger brother. He was too young at the time. Um, I guess he was like younger than Michael Jackson compared to the other Jacksons, you know. But I remember going to their house and in their living room, their walls are just covered with platinum records. You know, it's just very interesting. This really modest kind of almost rundown house on the south side of Chicago. You know, and you go in and like there's these platinum records everywhere. It's weird, really weird.
All right, so we've gotten into strange areas of conversation. Does anybody else want to talk to David about anything in particular? Otherwise, I'm going to tell a little about HTM Java. Aaron or Rob, thanks for joining. Feel free to pipe in.
No, hi guys. Nothing specific to ask. It's interesting to hear David talk about a few philosophical things, but yeah, I don't know what's the subject matter. Is it are we going to talk about HTM Java or?
Really, it's just anything you want to talk about with David. These I'm calling them community HTM Conversations. It's just a way to help the community get to know some of the main players. David's a main player in the community, providing HTM Java from scratch, wrote it from scratch. So yeah, I'll let you talk about it, David.
Well, I didn't do it all myself, that's for sure. We kind of started out, like I said, with the conversation between Matt and I, and Matt kind of gave me the equivalent of, "Sure, you're going to do it." No, I'm just joking.
Well, it was first it was the conversation was you realize because he was like, I want to write a Java version of HTM based on what is in Nupic currently, and I want to give all the code to you, give all the copyright to Numenta, and you guys can just have it. So my first conversation was, why? And you realize what you're doing. You know, I don't want you to give up your copyright to any code you write without understanding the consequences of that. So we had a long discussion about that and came away from it totally happy. I'm more than happy to have a Java implementation of HTM. I think honestly it could very well be the future of HTM just because it's such a huge platform and so many more people can grok Java and the JVM and deploy it than they can with C++ and Python with C extensions, which is so messy. So I'm more than grateful to David for doing this. I'm super happy that you did it and you're part of our community. And let me just take this opportunity to say thank you publicly, David, for doing what you do, for maintaining HTM Java, for being the go-to guy for it. You're a great voice to have in the community, and I think you're well appreciated by everyone. So thanks.
I'd be interested to know, why did you want to port HTM to Java?
I really felt there was something special about the technology, and the more I learned about it, the more excited I got, and it really resonated with me that it was the way forward with artificial intelligence, and so and I excitedly went to the website and looked at the code and discovered it was in Python and C++, and I nearly cried because I just couldn't. Everything I had seen before that had always had a Java version, and I couldn't understand that there was this thing that was of such import that didn't have a Java version, because the whole world seemed to me, and maybe it was just my perspective, but was in Java. So I said they really need a Java version, and so I looked and found a couple of starts. People had started making stuff, and and made their own versions of things. And I was like, well, okay, can I use this? And I tried to use some of it, and it couldn't do, because it wasn't a full developed version, it couldn't do what NewPick does. And so I was like, well, what they really need is for this to happen. And I don't know what made me think that I could do it, but or to start it. But
did you warn your wife about the endeavor you were about to embark upon?
She's kind of used to me being manic about certain things, and so she just chalked it up to another one of these things. And I don't think she really saw that I was gonna, go through with it and hang with it and stay involved to this extent, because I tend to go from one thing to another. But this is something different. This is something. It makes a statement to the world. NewPick and Numenta, and even in the way that the corporation is structured and their openness and how they're approaching research, and it just says it's just totally where I want to be, and expresses the better parts of what an organization in our society can be, and then to have them be doing some of the most important work there is. It's just I can't really say how.
But you're saying you wanted to do it because you really like Java.
Yeah. And so I am a Java developer, and in Java, it makes more sense to me than other languages.
So you'd rather port it to Java than contribute to the Python code base.
I don't know Python as well, and really, in order for me to contribute to the Python code base to the extent that I would want to, you have to learn the idiosyncrasies of languages, and it takes time to do that.
I'm in a similar position with all of the above. I haven't looked at HTM Java as such. I don't know, maybe it's more accessible. It might be quite good. But I just noticed that a lot of people seem to be porting HTM. So Felix has done HTM Closure, and MRAP has done Matrix. And there's essentially half a dozen other people who are writing ports to understand what's going on better.
Yeah. It's an excellent way to get to know the code.
I'd have to say that most of those ports are for self-education. The difference with David's is from the beginning he wanted this to be something that could be used, could be consumed as a library, a Java library. And he's done a really good job at that. It is being used. People come in, a lot of them, and if they are Java folks, they go to HTM Java and they're happy. He's doing a lot for the community.
Yeah, his production code, it may be really good. I actually haven't looked at it. It might be more accessible than some of the other code bases.
It definitely is more accessible.
One of the main things is that I went, and the others that worked on it have also done this too, and have made sure that all the tests have equal output, except where a random number generator impacts whatever test. And even in those circumstances, when I first did it, I recorded all of the random number output and shoved that into the Java version and made sure that I got the same output as the Python version. So you're assured when you use htm.java that you're getting the true NewPick at whatever stage it was when it was ported, and as it's ongoingly ported. And that's one of the main differentiators to me, is that we're really committed to having it be NewPick just in Java, and that's so you can feel you can rest assured that that's what you're getting when you're using it.
I guess
And
it's more like production code, so it might be used more as production code than so the basic code base of HTM and Python maybe is more of an experimental thing in the first instance anyway.
well, the one thing that Java offers is the ability to integrate it with other systems and in a streaming library. As a matter of fact, I see we have the author of one of those libraries here, Flink. Is that the Flink guy?
It's Aaron, yeah.
It's Aaron. Aaron is here, and he has written a distributed. Well, I don't know. Why don't you describe it, Aaron?
Something's wrong with Aaron's
Oh,
mic.
that's right. That's right. My Aaron had that problem before with his mic. Well, anyway.
I can describe it real quick. It's
Okay.
Flink is a distributed stream processing platform, and he wrote an adapter so that you could use HTM as the stream processing part of it, and it hooks into the whole Flink platform. I think this is a huge thing, actually, getting HTM into the whole stream processing world. This is like very nascent stuff. People are starting to realize that processing streams in today's world with so many streams is really important, and understanding them in real time is really important. So I'm excited about the work that Aaron has been doing on top of HTM Java. So good on both of you. Aaron approves.
In terms of getting into HTM Java, I mean, it's always the big question. Have you got any documentation on it?
Other than what you find in the wiki, I tried to be as thorough as possible. It's a task. It's a huge task, and I've had a lot of help, but it's been fleeting. People will get into it and really intensely for a short period of time, and then move on or have their attention professionally taken to other things. And so I haven't really had the kind of ongoing help that I could use in order to shore up some of the things and make like the documentation a bit better, and maybe extend it more in certain circumstances. Actually, there's a guy who I haven't yet announced who has ported HTM.java over to .NET. And he is actually, I guess, being afforded HTM.java's state, he has actually taken it and he has made a swarm and a KNN algorithm. So he's gone even further than I have, using HTM.java as his original foundation. And so I don't know what state the code is in because I haven't really looked at it, but I've been talking with him and helping him out, so we're looking at HTM being ported to other languages too, and I'm excited for that. Then, and Clojure it's a great platform, and the work that Felix is doing is, I'm almost worried about it because Felix is working on some of the bleeding edge topics that I think that Numenta is approaching too in its future, and I get worried that Felix's work won't get fully integrated into Numenta's process. I don't know. I've just been here for a little over a year, so, and Felix has been here for a while, so or in the community for a while. But I hope that a lot of the things he's looking at won't get lost in in their research contribution, because he's looking at a lot of aspects of like hierarchy and reinforcement and things like that that are bleeding edge topics, and that's what his repository is dedicated to. And he makes no bones about giving no assurances that it'll be in any given production state, in terms of being used by outsiders. It's basically a research tool, as far as I know. So.
Yeah, it's just that from my point of view, impenetrability of access is a factor, and most of these code bases only seem to have one or two. Well, FedEx has got two contributors, and a lot of people who are writing their own experimental versions, they're just sort of trying to figure out what's happening. I mean, I must say that I've found that this little implementation that MRaptor did, with a lot of documentation, is a change in that, and that could be, it's more accessible for me, and that might be, yeah, it's good anyway. It's good that he's put that much documentation. He's sort of documented his whole journey with understanding what has to happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm getting a feedback loop now. Oh, now it's
Yeah,
okay.
somebody's echoing. Aaron, did you get your mic back on? I can't tell.
But if you've taken a look at HTM.java's wiki, it does have pretty much a lot of documentation, especially the network API.
And I mean, I have to say, it's cleaner than
Hey, can
NewPick.
anyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Who is that?
Who is that? I heard him and then he went away. Okay, pipe up and you get back, I guess. But Rob, HTM Java, I would say, is cleaner just because of the constraint. Well, not only because, but partially because of the constraints that Java puts on program design. It's definitely more approachable to someone who understands the OOP aspect of Java. And yeah, the class structure is cleaner. With the Python version, we're messing with all of these potential extensions that are happening in C, and then NewPick has other frameworks in addition to just the network API. HTM Java has the network API, and there's additional functionality that NewPick provides that sort of clouds the space because it's not about the algorithms. It's not at all. So the HTM Java, I'd say, is more of a pure implementation, and it would be much more accessible for somebody. So I would say look into it.
Hey, can anyone hear me now?
Hey,
Yes.
There you are.
Oh, it's like I've got to fail.
So
well,
what's
great.
up?
Nice to be on the show. Nice to hear about David, your background and stuff. I really appreciate HTM Java because it is in Java, and for some years I've been really interested in this intersection of machine learning and big. Customers are often coming to us from a big data perspective, saying, I'm using Hadoop and I'm doing analytics. Now I'm doing predictive analytics. Oh, all of a sudden I need something like HTM. So for people coming from that perspective, they tend to be Java-oriented because the Apache big data stack is Java-oriented. And so HTM Java has really filled a need there for using, for speaking to people in that language or that context.
Yeah, definitely.
On the Flink front, let me just say that I think Flink is a great, shall we say, body for the HTM mind. Anyone who wants to use something like HTM, they need a way to integrate it into their system. In other words, give it a corpus of some kind. So Flink is just a really good streaming data flow system that's kind of the state of the art today, and it made for kind of a perfect match in my mind. That it is very, it's all about temporal streaming.
Hmm. He went away.
Yeah, you just cut out, Aaron.
Basis for running HTM.
Hey, Aaron, you're cutting out.
Okay, I'll try one more thing, but at least you can
Oh.
hear me now.
You're better now. I think it was just the network.
So I think HTM and Flink, it is just a perfect combination for distributed, reliable, production scale use of HTM Java.
Why don't you tell us about let's interview Aaron. Why don't you tell us about what you think about Flink as opposed to Spark? Because I've been making some comments about it, and I'd like to know, a bit more, because it's important for HTM.Java's future.
Give me a second, and I'll come back to that.
Okay.
I'm going to try to fix my connection.
Okay.
There he goes. Yeah, he would know best.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to have Aaron over to Numenta in a couple weeks with a guy from the Flink community who's really excited about Aaron's work and building a system for distributed stream processing with HTM. He works at it. I probably shouldn't say what company he works for because I don't know what his opinion is about that. So, but there's people interested in this space, and I think it's a good space.
Totally.
And by the way, Rob, I muted you earlier because of background noise. You can unmute yourself whenever.
Yeah, I get it. That's probably my fan is creating a bit of noise, but yeah, I'll go offline.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh wow, this is great. It's not okay. Good. To continue, you mentioned Flink versus Spark. I'll speak to that for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they're mostly complementary, though at first glance they seem to have a lot of overlap. Flink is special.
Oh no.
just totally dropped out.
He just dropped his connection.
Yeah, that was a full AV drop. We can't have a hangout without something like this happening. It wouldn't be a hangout.
I think there's a Spark person on here who just cut out the connection real quick.
There's gremlins in the system, that's for sure. Well, I wish I knew exactly what Aaron was going to say, but the gist of it is that Spark or Storm or Kafka or those other types of stream processing techs still, and when they're all set up and distributed, will occasionally, because of faults, drop data, or will not be able to recover from a fault in time to process every bit of data. And Flink has fixed that problem through some, back-end underlying persistence magic. Some guy explained it to me, and
oh wow,
I got it then. I don't understand. I don't remember it anymore.
Interesting, very interesting. I didn't know that. Okay. So it has some failover and some persistence. Yeah,
it's the failover that's the important thing. So you can be assured, and that was one of the reasons that Aaron was so adamant about you getting serialization working, because you've got to have serialization working, because you've got to periodically checkpoint every model.
Right.
And then if there's a failover, resurrect it, know exactly where that data stream stopped, and push that data back through. And there are architectural problems with that up until the point Flink was created. Hey, Aaron, I see you're back. I was trying to fill in based on my ignorance of Flink what you were about to say.
Wow. I'm back.
All right.
Yeah, this might actually work this time. Okay, let me just briefly say that Flink represents the state of the art in doing production streaming systems, because it's built around long-running jobs and processing data with what's called event time semantics, which is it takes time as a first-class element of the programming model. And it does this with a system that supports like checkpointing and reliability stuff that Spark just doesn't have. There's just a whole set of problems that are new to streaming analytics, and only Flink has really tackled them.
Interesting.
So it really is it's a fun way to code too. Like if you look at the sample.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping he comes.
Yeah, I don't think he...
Oh, no.
Let's see. In a minute we'll get... and he'll be right. We'll have missed about 20 seconds. Well, you know, this would be a good topic to bring up on the mailing list, how Flink could be an interesting tool to use with HTM systems. We have sort of discussed it before. We had a meetup about it where Aaron and I talked about stream processing.
Right.
So maybe Aaron will start that discussion and post some resources about Flink. But let's get back to you, David. Although, I mean, this is your show. You're the one who wanted to discuss Flink and stream processing.
Well, we're kind of talking about the future of HTM.Java, and so it seemed appropriate, but sure.
Well, I don't have any more questions for you unless Rob does. I didn't get anybody on the QA interface asking anything. Let me check one more time. So I think that's all I have. Do you have any parting thoughts for us, David? Would you like to wax philosophical anymore?
I don't know if I have any left, but I just would like to say I'm really proud of this community, and you know, I really mean that. I haven't seen a group like the one we've got here, you know, and everyone is generally just so supportive, and I'm just proud to be a part of it, and proud to work with Numenta and the community to, you know, further our goals. And you know, I really think that this work is headed someplace special, and it's immediately apparent to those who, you know, to encounter, you know, this technology for the first time. You know, people get excited about it like I haven't seen with other things, and it really speaks to the profoundness of, you know, where we're headed with this. So and I'd like to, anybody who wants to get involved with working on HTM.Java, you know, from student to, you know, to writer to anything, even non-code related tasks. You know, I'm here, I'm almost here all 24 hours a day, and I mean that literally. So you know, I'm here to help, and if you need to ask something, you know, I'm on the Gitter channels, I'm on the mailing list, I'm on the new Discourse site, and you know, I'm here to help, and you know, I can use whatever help that anybody, you know, wants to give. There's lots of things to do, and so there's a lot of opportunity if you want to, you know, jump in.
All right, so there's your call to action from HTM Java lead David Ray. Thank you, David Ray, for joining us. You're definitely a big member of this community. It's a leader in our HTM community. Thank you for all of your efforts. And thanks, everybody, for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have to encourage you to subscribe to our channel. Like this video if you like it. It's part of my job now. So thanks again, David. Thanks, everybody, for watching and for your questions.
Thanks, everybody.
And we'll see you guys on HTM Forum now. All right, take care.